What spin-offs would you like to see from The Mandalorian? That's exactly what I asked you, the community, and as always, you guys came up with some fantastic ideas, so let's get right into them. And first up here we have Ahsoka 521, and they state maybe they could do a spin-off series about how the Mandalorians rose to power, or go into the history of the Darksaber by showing how Tar Vizsla was made a Jedi, and then how Mandalorians stole the lightsaber during the fall of the Old Republic. And yeah, that would be really interesting. It would be great to get some backstory on the Darksaber, and I'm not sure Ahsoka 521 if that's a direct spin-off from the Mandalorian, but it's certainly something I would like to see. It could even be a 3-movie series, one showing the history of the Darksaber, another showing Tar Vizsla becoming a Jedi, and a third with the Mandalorians stealing the actual lightsaber. Now, of course, that would be fantastic to see in live action, but it would also be great to see Dave Filoni get to do that in animation, or at least some of Dave Filoni's team. Heck, I'd even take that in a comic book series, or even a novel. Thanks for that great comment, Ahsoka 521. But moving on to KB Stacks, they stated, I hope when Ahsoka gets her own show, she meets up with Grandmaster Luke and his new Jedi Order. That would be an amazing episode. Yeah, KB Stacks, I'd really like that. It'd be interesting if Ahsoka tried to convince Luke that he was on the wrong path, that rebuilding the Jedi to their former glory isn't what they should be doing. Of course, Dave Filoni and his team would certainly need to be very careful with this, considering we know how things play out in the sequel trilogy, but Dave's definitely somebody I would trust with it. Thanks for that comment, KB Stacks. But moving on to our next commenter here, we have the Medieval Man 9, and he says, strictly from The Mandalorian, eh? Well, off the top of my head, 1. A series focused on bounty hunters, specifically showing how the Hunters Guild works. 2. A series following the squadron that had Trapper Wolf, Sash Ketter, and Jib Dodger, specifically showing this squadron as a dumping ground for retiring pilots from the Rebellion as they try to adjust to the new life under the New Republic. Just as this retirement squadron keeps getting weird rumors about ex-Imperials who keep disappearing in the unknown regions. 3rd, a series focusing on Cara Dune as she finds employment being a bodyguard/security expert for a war crimes investigator who is attempting to track down and bring to justice ex-Imperials who committed atrocities during the Civil War. And first up, it would be very interesting to get a little bit more about the behind the scenes of the Bounty Hunters Guild. And of course, I'd love to see more of Trapper Wolf, though from what Dave Filoni has said in the Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, it's not something he would jump at. But hey, you never know, that could be a really cool comic, for example. The one I would like to see most in live action would be Cara Dune hunting down ex-Imperials. I think that would be absolutely amazing, with tons of kick-ass fights, big explosions, and general Star Wars action. So thanks for that, Medieval Man 9. We also have Michael Drabell, and he commented that he'd like to see a dark movie or miniseries about the Empire getting rid of the Mandalorians and sending the only survivors into hiding. And yeah, Michael, that would be really cool to see more of. The Great Purge, the time where the Empire comes in after Star Wars Rebels, probably led by Moff Gideon. How did they do that to some of the greatest warriors in all the Star Wars galaxy? That is a story I hope we actually get to learn more about in The Mandalorian, but an actual miniseries or even a movie, well, that would be even better. So thanks for that, Michael. And I have another interesting comment here by Matthew Chirko, I believe that's how you say it. He said, a live action show where Ezra and Thrawn bring Ahsoka to the Outer Rim. They work with the Chiss to deal with some extra galactic threat. This explains why Ahsoka and Ezra aren't with the Resistance during the sequel without killing them off. That's an interesting thought, Matthew. I think you mean the unknown regions as opposed to the Outer Rim. The Mandalorian, the show itself, takes place in the unknown regions, and I've certainly theorized in the past that Ezra and Thrawn ended up in the unknown regions. I think the problem there is the timeline, Matthew, and that is Ahsoka and Sabine go looking for Ezra right after Return of the Jedi. So unless it takes them a really long time to find Ezra, or Ezra and Thrawn in this case take a really long time to find Ahsoka, then the timelines there aren't going to quite match up, but I really like the idea and hope we see something similar in the future. So thanks for that comment. And up next here we have Sunrise Alex, who states, the Imperial life from Queel's point of view. And that would be very interesting. Maybe a comic I'd like to see that in, Alex. Queel's point of view of Imperial life. Certainly not as action-packed as Cara Dune hunting down ex-Imperials, but Queel nonetheless is an amazing character from The Mandalorian Season 1. So thanks for that, Alex. We also have commenter Sean Clark. He states, how about a book about Boba Fett's story after Return of the Jedi? And Sean, I really like that idea, especially if they're bringing Boba Fett back in some sort of meaningful way, then we need to know how the heck he gets out of that Sarlacc pit. Of course, there's always a chance that we're just going to see a flashback of Boba Fett, in which case we don't need that story, so it's hard to say at this point how it's all going to play out. And thanks for that, Sean Clark. We also have a comment from Sean Merchant, and he says, definitely a popular one, but a Rebels sequel set after the events of Ahsoka being in The Mandalorian. We could definitely get something like that as an Ahsoka spin-off. There's certainly tons of rumors about live-action Star Wars Rebels characters, and it would be really weird if none of those were true. So Ahsoka and the Rebels back together, maybe on Lothal, but like Dave Filoni said in a recent interview, it just has to be the right story. So thanks for that, Sean. Moving on here, we have Thor Smith, and they state, an animated series about Jawas could be very humorous and entertaining. And absolutely, Thor, that would be a funny one. I would even like to see a comic book series about Jawas. Certainly they are quite the mystery, but are just such amazing little beings and an important part of Star Wars. So great idea, Thor Smith. I think it'd be absolutely hilarious. And thank you to everybody that commented at least once or twice a month on the community tab. I'll be asking you questions. It's always amazing to get great insight from the community, as well as just learning about Star Wars in general from all of you. So as always, I'm Mike. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.